What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be going over some tips that should help you dominate team game modes in Fortnite Chapter 4. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, find it helpful or informative, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and comment down below what your favorite game mode is so far in Fortnite between solos, duos, trios, and squads. Far and away, I think the most important thing, especially in zero build team game modes, is going to be team shotting. So if you and your teammates target the same player and just get a knock immediately on that player, it makes it so much easier for your team to play out that fight. So let's just like set this example up in duos because that's the easiest, game mode to talk about. So let's say you're fighting a team, it's a Red Knight and a Midas. You and your teammate both focus the Midas. You get a knock immediately. Not only is that team's firepower severely limited now because they only have one player, but also you force that Red Knight into an awkward situation where they kind of have to think about, like, am I going to go for the res? They feel outnumbered. They feel overwhelmed. Just getting a knock usually creates like chaos in the comms as well. Getting a knock makes the fight so much easier for you to play out because you're forcing your opponents to respond to a situation that they probably weren't prepared for, and also you're severely limiting their firepower. You can bait the knock and kind of play off that, but I typically just like thirsting knocked players right away. You don't have to like immediately full kill them, but just getting a shot or two in them reduces the amount of time they have to exist before they bleed out, and that makes it much easier for you to like play that fight out because you don't have to worry about that player potentially getting rezzed if like another third party comes in, or you have to reload, or they have decent cover. Who knows what's going on. If you think you have somebody knocked and that person ends up getting revived and they can heal pretty fast because there's a lot of fast heals in the game right now, like splashes, shieldfish, floppers. It's just easier to get that knock or get the thirst knock right away. So as soon as I knock someone, I pretty much always put a bullet or two into them with the red eye, and that makes them bleed out faster, and it makes the fight easier to play out in the long run, and it also puts more pressure on their teammate. Like I said, if they have 100 seconds to live or whatever it is, like 100 HP while they're knocked, they have more freedom to make decisions in the fight than if you immediately put damage on the person and make them bleed out faster. So I pretty much always go for thirsts right away. I don't know why it's seen as like a negative thing in the Fortnite community. I've never really understood that. Also, another thing that can help you a lot in zero build is getting different angles than your teammates. So if you're just standing right on top of your teammates all of the time, you have basically the same perspective that they do on the opponents that you're fighting. And that makes it very easy for the opponents to just get behind cover and then block all of your shots. But if you guys have different angles, then you have different opportunities to shoot at the opponent, and it makes it harder for the opponent to use cover effectively to counter all of you. There's still situations where that'll happen, but the cover is severely limited in zero build. In build mode, people can just full box whenever they want, and so this isn't as big of a deal. It's still nice, but in zero build, cover is limited. People don't get to just pick where they are all the time. So if your teammate is shooting at somebody and the person is worried about protecting themselves from your teammate, and you have a slightly different angle than your teammate, you might be able to shoot that person that your teammate was already shooting. Maybe they, at this point, kind of panic because you're shooting them too, and then move back into a position where your teammate can shoot them. And that's really nice. I think getting multiple angles is one thing that a lot of kind of lesser experienced players kind of struggle with, but I think it's a huge deal in zero build. Obviously, you want to be somewhat nearby your opponent or your teammate, sorry. Like I'm talking about like 10 to 15 feet of separation, or 10 to 15 meters, not like across the map difference. But if y'all are all standing on top of each other, you have the same perspective on the opponent. Whereas if you're a bit spread out, you can kind of pick the person apart. Once again, it makes the fight more chaotic for your opponent, and it makes it harder for them to protect themselves in a fight. It makes it harder for them to get heals, potentially get a revive if you get that knock like we talked about before. So I think having multiple angles on your opponents is super important in Fortnite, in pretty much any BR and any shooter. Being a bit spread out makes the fight harder for your opponents to play out. So I definitely recommend getting slightly different angles in your teammates. And with the amount of mobility in this season, you can kind of play a little more loose like that because it's not hard for you to like hammer back to your team or shockwave bow back to your team. Another important thing is having really good callouts and really good comms. If you watch my zero build tournament videos, we have all our comms in those videos. And I think one of the biggest things a lot of people struggle with is they only call out enemy locations or what enemies they see. And while that is helpful information, like we talked about before, you kind of want to try to focus down the same people as your teammates. That way you can limit the other team's firepower. But also, how much damage you've done to the person is relevant. If you've played the game a lot, you kind of get used to adding up these damage totals in your head. Even in solos, I'm like always keeping track of that to kind of gauge how much health my opponent has and if I want to push on it. But letting your teammate know, like, oh, I hit this guy 150, he's no shield now, or I hit him 50 white, that means that they only have 50 health remaining. If you hit someone for white, that's their like total HP, not shield. The blue numbers are shield, the white number is health. So letting your teammate know you hit somebody for white is pretty big. Also, what you're doing, I think this is something that a lot of people struggle with. If you want to get a flank or you want to catch a different angle, communicating that to your teammate is pretty helpful because then they know to kind of like buy time. If you have to heal, that is very important for your teammate to know, because if your teammate thinks you're pushing into a fight and you're like, no, I'm healing or I got to reload, that is important for them to know. So I think the biggest thing a lot of players struggle with is not only communicating what they're personally doing, but kind of what they want to do in a fight. They just kind of go and expect their teammates to play off them, which kind of is the easiest way to have good teamwork. If you feel like your team is just constantly on different pages and it's just chaos, I feel like the easiest way to fix that is just to be the person that kind of fills in and plays off your teammates. If everybody is trying to force everybody else on the team to listen to them and do what they want, and no one is budging on that, it's going to be awkward. But if you just kind of play the fill role and play off of your teammates and kind of complement them, it's pretty easy to automatically have good teamwork, especially in duos. You know, it's only 2 people. If you decide to like complement your teammate and play off them, then you guys will have good teamwork. In squads, it gets a little more chaotic. But yeah, I think the easiest way to have good teamwork in this game is just to play off your teammates and do what they want to do rather than trying to convince everybody to listen to you. Another thing that can be really helpful in fights, and once again, if you watch my zero build competitive videos, you see me doing this a lot, and that is spraying out cover with the tactical pistol or the SMG. I like carrying the tactical pistol in zero builds, and with the pistol amp augment, especially if you have pistol amp and light fingers, you can spray out cover incredibly fast. Like the trees and the rocks, they have a good amount of HP, but with the pistol, you can break it incredibly fast. And if, like, let's just say you have a full team, full squad, all shooting at somebody, if 2 of them swap to pistols, the cover is going to go down incredibly fast, and then the other people can just keep tapping them with red eyes. Whereas like with red eyes, I found it doesn't really do as much damage to cover, or doesn't consistently like destroy cover as fast, I feel like. And then also, like, oftentimes by the time you finally destroy the cover, everybody has to reload. But if you swap to the pistols, spray the cover out, swap back to the red eye, you can actually get some damage in on that opponent after breaking their cover rather than just reloading. And I even do this in solos sometimes. Like, the red eye is great, don't get me wrong, but I feel like if you're destroying cover, it's better to go with your pistol. The range on it is actually really good. And if you have pistol amp, the magazine is also really, 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 really large. And another thing, I think a lot of people... I feel like a lot of people actually understand this, but you can kind of spread out some of the situational items and augments amongst the team. So like forecast is a really good augment, but not everybody in the team needs it, because once somebody has it, you can just ping where zone is and then everybody kind of knows. The vehicle perks are nice if your team uses cars, but it's not like everybody needs to get it. As long as one person has it, you kind of have that benefit. And then same thing with some of the situational items. So like the new Falcon Scout drone that got added. It's not like everybody needs to carry that, but if your team likes using it, then someone having it is nice. And that's why I don't really rate these situational items too highly typically, because I mostly play solos and there isn't as much room in your inventory for all those situational items in solos. But in squads, you can kind of spread out some of those like situational items or situational augments, and it makes it much easier to kind of work them into your loadouts. So things like bunkers, Falcon Scout, shield, some of the augments, porta bunkers. It's not like everybody needs to carry these, but if you have somebody carrying them, it's super nice to have and it can save your life. I think visual audio is also super helpful in team game modes. This is a setting that personally I don't like it, but I started using it recently because of the zero build cups. In solos, it's very easy to know that every noise you hear is an opponent, but in team game modes, it can be kind of hard to know, like, was that my teammate's footsteps or is there somebody creeping up on us? And if you are in a fight and, you know, people are calling out and everybody on your team is shooting, you're less likely to hear somebody sneaking up on you, potentially. So that's why I started putting on visual audio for these zero build cash cups, is mainly just because you get into a lot of fights where your entire team is just spraying and your entire team is calling out, like, who they broke shield or what we're going to do next. And in all of that chaos, it can be very easy for people to sneak up on you, and that's super detrimental. So if you only play team game modes, I would definitely recommend using visual audio. Even if you just play solos, it is nice. I just personally didn't really enjoy it. One of the final things I want to talk about is playing with people who have similar goals to you in game. This sounds weird. A lot of people will be like, oh, it's a game, who cares? But I mean, like, if you really want to get wins and all you care about is getting wins, it's probably not ideal for you to play with someone who wants to get really high kill games. You know, those two things are often kind of contradictory to each other, because the more fights you're getting in and the higher kills, the more risky it is and the less likely you are to win. And then also, if you want to get on and just do the weekly challenges, it's probably not going to be best for you to be playing with people that really want to get wins. And it's not like you can't play with these people, but I feel like if you kind of like have that discussion going in, but what you're going to do or what you're kind of playing for, I feel like that would make it a lot easier for a lot of people to have a more enjoyable experience in this game. Because I feel like a lot of people have separate goals, but they don't really talk about it. They're just like, they get on and play. You might have a full trio. One person wants to do challenges, one person wants to like do meme stuff, and one person wants to get like high kill wins. And it's just like, you can have fun playing the game together, but it would probably be easier if you guys just kind of like talked about what you wanted to do in the play session. And then the final thing I want to talk about is just like, in general, in Fortnite, fighting is pretty much all that matters, I think. Like, there are things that matter for sure, but at the end of the day, the team that wins is probably going to be the team that like is better at fighting, especially with like the insane mobility we have in the game right now. There isn't as much strategic depth to the game. You know, one team could have the best spot in zones with bunkers and like be camping it and playing really hard to win, and then another team can just pull up with hammers and just take that positioning really quick. So at the end of the day, and I've talked about this in several videos where people are like, oh, I only play squads, so this like close range fighting video doesn't apply to me, or this like video on the ARs doesn't apply to me. It does. At the end of the day, the team that fights best is going to be the team that wins. I think there are things that you can do to make fights more convenient for your team, like I was saying, like good call outs, having different angles, you know, team shotting. But at the end of the day, the team that fights best together is going to win. And you could have, I think, 4 individual players that are insanely good, like consistently come out on top versus like 4 people that aren't nearly as good but have like good teamwork and chemistry. At the end of the day, like individual skill is super important in this game. So while having good teamwork also matters, improving individually also really matters. And that is why I make a whole bunch of videos about that sort of thing. If you are new to the channel, you can check my channel page. Also, I'm going to be posting this on the same day as a Zero Build Cash Cup, so a few hours after this video is posted, if you're watching it when it's brand new, I will be live on Twitch streaming the Zero Build Cash Cup with my teammates. If you guys want to follow me on Twitch, it'll be linked down in the description below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a like, subscribe, comment down below what game mode is your favorite, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.